Okay, I feel like this video might be a little bit chaotic, but we're going to try it anyways. I'm going to talk to you about the 25 things that surprised me in marriage while making banana bread. It is like the first day of fall. It finally feels gloomy and cold and I just need banana bread. And I have 2 bananas right in there. So let's get cooking. Okay, we definitely are going to be using the pan that I got at Goodwill the other week. It was in one of my last vlogs. What kind of like brought this to mind was my brother and sister-in-law recently got married, and I've been just thinking about marriage and reminded of what a beautiful thing it is. But reminiscing of when AJ and I got married in that first year, there was a lot of things that I was just like, what the heck? I am not prepared for this, or just things that I wish I would have kind of had a heads up about. So yeah, I can be a naggy wife, and I think that was a really annoying realization to realize. Didn't think I would be one of those like in the Bible how it talks about, but I am. And it's very humbling to realize that you can be extra annoying, and women particularly can just be very naggy towards their husbands. As soon as we got married, I was like, oh my gosh, wait, I understand like why God tells women specifically not to be naggy. I would say like when I first got married, my wife instincts all of a sudden just activated. I was like, I need to cook, I need to clean, I need to do the laundry, I want to keep our house nice. I had never really been like that concerned about stuff like that until I got married. It flipped a switch, not even just with like household things, but just with like your instincts. I feel like you just, I don't know, you just like get this like sixth sense or something. It's like switching on wife mode or something. I know it sounds like kind of like weird, but it's true. That brings me to the next thing, which is that I didn't realize how my priorities would shift so much. Like all of a sudden I was like, I don't want to live in the city anymore. Family means a lot more to me. I want to, you know, start eating healthy and taking care of ourselves. We need to save money. Your priorities change so much, as I feel like as soon as you get married, it's like, oh, I see why everything going on in the world matters so much, because it's like, now we have a teeny tiny family that I need to take care of. It also surprised me how much you need to over communicate. That was surprising. Oh, and by the way, we've been married for 2 years now, so we are well past our first year, but only by a year, I guess, so it's still fresh on our minds. And I should say, disclaimer, I mean, I guess there's kind of that like cliche that like Christian couples, as soon as they get married, you know, like give all this wedding or marriage advice or whatever. And I don't want to come across that way, that we have it all figured out just because we've been married for 2 years or anything. These are just things that I have found really surprising. We are good at communicating. I will say that that was one of our strengths, but I found myself needing to communicate even more once we got married. Stuff that I thought would be obvious to him, I needed to just say, because it might not be, and most likely wasn't obvious to AJ. Okay, while we wait for that to melt, I would say the next thing would be how every fight literally does start with dishes. Not every fight, obviously, but it's crazy to me how much dishes can be at the center of fights, and I didn't believe people who are married who said that. Truly, dishes are just the center point of like every annoying fight. I don't even want to say like center point, it's just that they become a fight constantly. We have a better system down now-ish, but even still. Okay, wait, the butter's melted. I would say it's also crazy and surprising how much your childhood affects your marriage. How you grew up, how your parents fought, how your parents did things. Again, you hear this being said, but I was still surprised at just how much conversations AJ and I would have about our childhood, like constant, and it would come back to it often. Because it's like in dating we talked a decent amount, and we even went through premarital and stuff, but in marriage, constantly, we were talking about our childhoods, all of that. It really affects your marriage, and now thinking about like having a family and having kids, it makes me even more determined to try and be the best parent to our future kids, because it can make marriage really difficult. I was surprised at how excited I would be like to sleep next to each other and go to bed in the same bed. Even still, like I look forward to going to bed and getting to sleep next to AJ. It's just still exciting to me. I don't know if that will stop eventually, but you know, we're 2 years in and I'm still excited to be able to get to sleep next to AJ. So, and along with that, like how much harder I slept, because having AJ there, he's like, you know, a protector. I just felt more peace, like sleeping with him around. I used to wake up at, you know, really early. And then when I first got married in that first year, it was so hard to get out of bed. I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, what's happening? But I realized later on that AJ and I were like, oh my gosh, like I think I just feel like safe with him and at peace. I just sleep better with him around. Okay, I actually need to get a spoon instead of this fork. And vanilla. Once I married AJ, I felt like I could be a girly girl, or like embrace my feminine, softer side. Being like an independent single woman, I feel like you just, especially in a city like by yourself, you really have to be like you don't really realize how high your guard is. I didn't really realize that until I was with AJ. It was just very healing to my inner child, as you would say, that I felt like I could be little Molly again. Like I felt safe to be girly and soft and delicate. I love marriage in that way, that God makes it so you can be like the best woman that you can be. It really surprised me because I didn't really think I had that within me, but I do. And I started wearing dresses. How much characteristics became so attractive. AJ's patience became even more attractive because I realized he was putting up with me. I think that was maybe the next thing that surprised me in marriage, was how awful of a person I am or could be, and how annoying I can be. And that's kind of AJ and I's joke with each other, is like, we just tell each other, you're so annoying. Like, you're so annoying. You know, we're like joking, but it's also like true. You know what I mean? It just like makes light of something that, you know, can be or feel like really a lot, because it's like true. It's like both of us are so annoying to each other sometimes. But you know, obviously I think AJ is attractive and I like how he looks, but it was these qualities and characteristics that were like really attractive to me and became increasingly more attractive in that first year of marriage, because you're dealing with me, I'm annoying. He was very quick to forgive, and I feel like that was the first time I really noticed it, was because he would forgive me or like say that he understood me, even when I was being like so, like literally so annoying and just like stubborn and prideful and defensive. Like he would be humble and gracious to me. And that was just so attractive. I was like, oh my gosh. Like, I feel like another thing was just how quick time gets filled up once you're married. You know, it feels like your time gets just cut in half, because there's two people, there's two families, there's two schedules, and you combine it into one, and it's like there's not enough time in the day. But I think that was also because I was taking on cooking for the first time in my life, cleaning really for the first time in my life, and so that was a different experience for me too. I feel like we need to add just like a little bit of cinnamon to this. Okay, these next two are a little bit spicy, but pelvic floor therapy, go. Men don't have a like raging sex drive all the time. And not that like, cause I know that like guys obviously don't want to have sex all the time. I feel like when AJ wouldn't want to like do that, I'd be like sad. I'd be like, well, something's wrong with him. Like, of course, like every guy like wants to do this all the time, and that's just not true. And I feel like it surprised me, because even though I could hear that, I was like, oh, but like guys want this all the time though, you know? Okay, wait, I did not butter this. But while I butter it, I didn't journal as much. Oh, this is an awkward angle. In my singleness, would journal all the time, constantly. And in marriage, it was just hard to do. Like, I think it partly had to do with, it was such a journey to find the one. I was constantly in contact with God about that, talking through engagement, talking through all that. Once I was married, it was like, it felt like the quest was over, like the journey was over. And it was a different sort of journey now with marriage. Definitely with marriage, it was surprising how much I have to, on my own, get away from AJ, because a lot of times you can get what you should be getting from the Lord, from your person, and make sure that I'm spending time with God and journaling and stuff. So now that it's winter, I'm excited, or you know, starting to be fall, because I think I'll be more in the mood for that and get back in the routine again, where summer was just so busy. I was surprised at how healing marriage was. I was totally not expecting to be healed through marriage, and at least not to the degree that I was, especially in that first year. I feel like there's just a lot of things that I had to work through and that AJ and I worked through, and to be loved by someone unconditionally like that. Like, obviously there's Jesus, but it's so different when it's like this other person that you're on a daily basis impacting with either your inconveniences or your problems or troubles or whatever. And it's just healing to see them love you like that. I kind of touched on this, but just how important family is. I was surprised at how once I got married, I was like, oh, like it really was this shift of like, I need to move back home. I need to be by my family. Like, family is important. And obviously AJ's family is very important to me too. And that was like a whole learning experience, is like adopting another family. You're now a part of another family, and it just all became much more important to me. Not that family wasn't before, it just took on a new, like, I felt like my eyes were open to family in a whole new way. I didn't feel as much of a need to go out and do social things because I was with AJ all the time. And I've heard of like other people mentioning this, that like when you're with your person, like it just feels like you don't feel the need to have social time, friend time as much. So I really have to like force myself to hang out with friends because I already feel like I'm like hanging out. I already feel like my social tank is full and I'm good to go. That's another thing that surprised me in marriage, was just how much you need your girlfriends and just how much guys need guy time, and how I read this thing that like going on an adventure like without each other and then coming back and talking to each other about like all of your exciting things going on. If you do everything together all the time, you can lose that like mystery about the other person. Like, what were they doing? Like, where were they without me? And I've been trying to like get better about that because AJ and I are together quite a bit. We work from home together, so I feel like that just like already sets us up for failure. I would say being defensive doesn't help anything, and that was surprising to me. You really do become one person. Like, what happens to the other person happens to you. What the other person is going through is happening to you. The decisions that the other person make affect you. It's like, it pretty quickly in the first year was like, whoa. Like, one of my like friends in Austin said a unit. Like, we're a unit together. Everything just feels very important because another person is all of a sudden involved in your decision making. You know, if AJ, for example, watches TV after work, that affects me because I'm not hanging out with him. I have to find something to do by myself. That's like a little example, but it goes, you know, to the grander, bigger things, that you literally are one. Like, you're a unit, you're a team. And I think in that first year, you really are trying to get those training wheels on. You're figuring out like, okay, what does this mean for us? What does this look like for us? Biggest tip that I always say is, in our first year of marriage, we focus on keeping our marriage strong so we could go out in the world in strength. Because if you don't know how to ride your own bike, you're not going to get very far. If your marriage isn't working for you, you're not going to be able to go anywhere with it. You're not going to be able to be effective in the world, you know, together. I was very surprised at how fun it would be to watch each other grow. I have like found such joy in helping AJ become more of the man he's meant to be, seeing him overcome challenges, seeing him defeat like years long of like sin patterns that he had or bad habits that he had before. Like, it just is a very fulfilling feeling, and I definitely wasn't expecting that. I guess I kind of thought with marriage you just kind of stayed the same people in a way. Even though I've heard that quote, like, you marry 5 people in your lifetime and it's the same person. Like, that is exactly it. Like, even in these 2 years, I feel like I've married a completely different person, which is very scary if, you know, to hear, I guess, if I wasn't married. But it's like, when you're both focused on Jesus and following him, you know that it's going to be a better person year after year. And that's another thing I was surprised at, is how important it is to keep Jesus at the center. My parents told me that over and over and over again. That was always their advice, was to keep Jesus at the center. I can't tell you how important that has been for AJ and I. Like, it always just comes back to the Lord, and I know that we have the same compass, you know, so we're going in the same direction. Or if one of us starts a detour, it's like we point back to that. We don't point back to like each other or our own like goals that we set. We do, but like I feel like those can fail or can be, you know, not always a good enough reason. But pointing it back to the Lord and his word has been so helpful for us. When things get hard, when things get good, Jesus is at the center of all of it. It has made our marriage, like it is the best part. The honeymoon phase didn't exist for us, but it evolved. I would say my relationship with the honeymoon phase was mostly non-existent, and I couldn't really tell you why. And not to say that there wasn't like excitement and stuff. Like I was very excited and it was all like new and fun, but it wasn't like it was like mushy gushy, like completely head over heels or anything like that. It felt very normal getting married. It was just kind of like, wow, we're married and this is crazy, but it feels normal. And it just was a natural thing to happen. But I feel like now, as the years go on, as the days go by, the honeymoon phase evolves, and I feel like now we're almost more in a honeymoon phase than we were before, because you get to like, the more that you get to love of the other person, the more you can love them. Like the more there is to love and the more it's just so much sweeter. That's how I would describe the honeymoon phase, is that it's evolved, and I feel like it just will go on forever. Like I can't imagine having kids down the line, all the stuff we'll go through down the line in years to come, and how much more I'll love AJ. I felt like I would feel like that right away. When you think about it, it doesn't really make any sense, because it's like you don't even really like fully know this person. The more that I know AJ, the more that I love him, and the more that I feel like we're on a honeymoon. This is a topic that I want to talk about because I feel like in the Christian community, it can get all, you know, crazy, but people talk about how hard marriage is. It's so hard. Like marriage is hard and we do this and it's hard. And I get where they're coming from, but I was very surprised when I got to marriage and realized how it wasn't that hard. And I don't mean to like have it sound like we're bragging and that marriage was super easy for us and effortless or anything. I wouldn't use that word to describe marriage to someone who's like asking me how it's going. Like marriage is really fun and it's the best thing I've ever done. It is going to be the most like difficult relationship you're going to have because you're in it forever. Like there's no way out, you know? Like, and if you're a Christian, there's really like no way out. It's not gonna be easy. Like Satan's gonna want to like attack your marriage, but when you marry the right person, it's not the main theme of marriage is that it's hard, you know? And I think like the goal shouldn't be that your marriage should just be full of these trials and difficulties and like just all this like stuff. Like obviously those are things that make your marriage stronger and stuff, but I don't know, I just haven't, especially now, I don't really relate to that as much. But I agree, like I simultaneously agree with it while disagreeing with it, because there is challenges that only come up in marriage and things that I've faced only because of marriage. And that's another surprising thing, is when I was single, I thought I had it figured out. I thought I was pretty good to go. Like I was like, okay. And then I got married and I'm like, it exposes so much of your weaknesses or vulnerabilities that nothing else except for marriage can do. I get where it's hard, but I don't like how in Christian circles it becomes like the defining feature of marriage is the hardness of it. It definitely pushes you, but it's not miserable. Like I think maybe that's what I'm trying to get at, is marriage isn't miserable. And I think saying that it's hard makes it sound miserable. I was surprised to find out that it's really not miserable, but it gets easier as it goes on, and that was surprising to me too. I kind of expected things to get harder just with how the conversation with marriage is. Like it get more boring, it get more difficult as it went on, and as we've gotten to know each other and work through things, it's gotten easier. I know AJ's needs better and he knows my mind. He's gotten very good at knowing when I need a hug, which is honestly most of the time. Marriage is really, really sweet. I was gonna say sweet like banana bread, but my banana bread still is like 24 minutes, so the beeper didn't go off at the perfect time. But there's probably honestly like 85 more that I could list off of things that surprised me about marriage. These are just the ones that came to mind first. Let me know down below what your surprising things in marriage are, or any marriage advice, any of your thoughts on marriage. I really would love to hear them. Subscribe if you like the video, but for sure leave a comment. I'd love to talk about marriage in the comments. I will see you guys.